We are live, hopefully, fingers crossed. With a bit of luck, we're coming to you live today in my Facebook group, the Business Growth Community, on my profile on LinkedIn, and hopefully over on YouTube. So I'm very excited today to be joined by Alistair Nash, who is going to share all things Google Ads with us. So we're going to talk all things kind of dark arts, unknown places, ways to lose an absolute fortune, and other juicy snippets today. So, Alistair, first off, tell us a little bit about you and how you developed your fascination for Google Ads.
Yeah, well, I've been working in and around Google Ads for over 10 years now. I started off as, it was that long ago, I was called a web marketing assistant, so yeah, on the web, the newfangled web. And then, that's when I started. That was when my introduction to Google Ads was. I was doing a lot of mostly data collection and sort of analysis back then. And then I sort of slowly worked my way up to managing a sort of multi-million pound Google Ads budget over sort of a 5-6 year period. That's kind of where I learned everything that I sort of know about Google Ads. And then from there, I've had my own Google Ads sort of agency, which has been running for about almost 3 years now. And yeah, continue to learn more. It continues to evolve and change. And working with.
I don't suppose it's something that ever stands still, though, is it?
It's not. It changes on a weekly basis, it seems now. So it's always one of those things you've got to stay on top of.
This is good. So I'm checking LinkedIn over on my left. So if people join us on Facebook and talk to me, I can see their comments here. If they join us on LinkedIn, I don't get to see the comments. So I've got LinkedIn over on my iPad. My screen's just showing pure black, so I'm hoping that people on LinkedIn can actually see us. It does say there's 5 people watching, so I'm not thinking people would watch for long. They didn't have a screen, so I'm hoping people can actually see us, but who knows? I guess the obvious question is, what is a Google ad? Because I think with lots of things in business, there's this sort of element of, you run your business and therefore you're supposed to know everything about business straight away. So we mustn't ask stupid questions, but I'm dead good at stupid questions. So what is a Google ad?
So what I'd say is probably the main type of Google ad, because there are multiple different types, but what the traditional is called a search ad. So this is if you go on to Google, or you open Google up on your browser or your phone, wherever you are, and then you do a search for whatever subject, then usually if that is deemed a commercial keyword, there'll usually be people who are willing to show ads there. And generally the first sort of 3 or 4 results on your desktop, and then usually first two on mobile are paid for ads. And you can usually tell because they have a little ad sort of snuck away in the corner of them in the sort of the top left usually, which tells you that that's an ad and someone is paying to be there, basically.
Okay. So who should use Google Ads then? Continue my spirit of stupid questions.
Well, I think the statistics, something is like 65% of small to medium businesses do use Google Ads. So I think it's very broad who should be using Google Ads. I think I usually go by sort of what situation you're kind of in for your business, and who shouldn't use Google Ads, I think, are the people who desperately need leads. That's what I always find. It's like, okay, I've got £50. I need to make.
Yes, my last £50 in the world.
I need to make £200. I'm going to go out of business. That Google Ads is probably not for you if that's your situation, because you can't make good decisions if you're.
It's very true.
I think if you can have a measured approach to it, then I think you there's every chance of success.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. So on that basis then, what should people be thinking about around duration? Is it something that's fantastic for, let's say, filling an event or a one-off promotion, or does it make more sense does there need to be a little bit of momentum over time?
Again, it depends. I mean, I have seen very successful campaigns for courses, for example. So a new course date will come out in the future, and then it's only switched on until the spaces are filled. But in general, you get rewarded for consistency. So if you are there consistently, you're going to see sort of improved efficiency over time. But yeah, you can definitely use it strategically to fill that gap in if you've got spare seats, if you're a bit quiet for appointments that month, or whatever it is. You can use it strategically as well.
Okay, this is good. And does it work better for particular sectors? So is it, for instance, fabulous for product sales or for hotel and leisure industry, or what about service-based businesses?
Yeah, sort of across all of those. I mean, there are sometimes some industries that it just doesn't work for. Generally, again, it's about what keywords you pick, because there's high intent keywords that are people. If you're a service based business, for example, what you want is, you're trying to generate leads. You want people to speak to you. So if people are doing a lot of research, maybe they're coming to your website, they're researching, they're at the early stages of their sort of buying journey, then you don't want to be spending a lot of money on people just doing their research. That's probably more for your kind of SEO or content outreach. You want those higher intent keywords where people are further down that buying journey and they're looking to, speak to someone. So that's how you're trying to find people for usually a more immediate return, which, as small business owners, we can't afford to outlay 6 months of budget to to get a client 8 months down the line. We want to speak to those clients soon, as soon as you start.
Yeah. So thinking about somebody that's toying with the idea of Google Ads, what are the key things that they need to get in place, or what's that research thing that they need to do to actually make sure that they've got a decent plan, as it were?
Yeah, well, there's probably a few things you need. I mean, one, you kind of want to know your own kind of numbers, really. Sort of what would be a reasonable cost per lead for you. So it's kind of it's good to know that up front. Otherwise, you can just end up spending a lot of money. You don't know when to make the changes. If changes are needed, you have to have some sort of benchmark figures to go for based on your business, how much money you're going to make per lead potentially, or sale, that sort of thing. So you need your own business numbers. You need to do your keyword research. So as I said, you want to go for more high intent keywords, I would say, especially when you're starting off, because you want to get that immediacy. You want to get leads coming in through the business, or sales coming in. So you want people who are kind of further down the funnel. And you also need to have a good website, or preferably landing page, in place for your product or service. And it needs to be, there's a few things that need to be right with it. It needs to be fast. You need to kind of have your credentials on there. Reviews are always a great thing to have on there. So there's a few things that you just need to, boxes you need to tick as well from a website perspective.
Fabulous. We've got a few viewers on Facebook today. I can see Kelly, Joe, Kylie, and we've got a secret anonymous Dave Bradburn lurking in the background as well.
Always secret anonymous.
So I'm trying to think. There were a couple of things that you talked about there. Cost per lead. We're getting technical now. Is that a straightforward case of saying, this is my budget, this is how much I need to, this is the return I need to get in order to generate a positive return, therefore my cost per lead is this? Or is that something that you can beaver away and actually find some information on? Because there must be certain keywords or search terms where it's 5 pence a lead, and there must be others where it's £50, £500 a lead.
Yeah, so I mean, in the ideal world, you would have some data already to start from. So if you've been generating leads from your website or sales from your website via another channel, and you have data on what your conversion rate is, then that's quite a nice place to start, because you can actually say, you can do in your keyword research, you can say, okay, it's going to cost me £1.50 per click. If I convert, my website converts these at 10%, I'm going to get a lead for £15, essentially. And you can kind of work that out. But it's very, it's kind of a rare case that you actually have that conversion data. So you kind of have to, again, benchmark it. If you can find any industry stats, if you can find any kind of averages, or even go with a worst case scenario, like say if my conversion rate was only 2%, my lead was X amount, is that going to work for me as a business? Because you can do as much upfront work as you like, but once everything's live, that's when you're only going to know the true numbers, because they can vary from what you can research, essentially.
So the short answer, I think, was basically look at what data you've already got.
Yes.
And make some solid guesstimates based on that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you've got some, at least your own client data, so you will know how much money you make, what your conversion rate is through the business, and then you have to sort of make some assumptions and sort of say, okay, this is what I can afford to pay per lead. And if you go live with a campaign and it starts to go over that, then you think, okay, I need to make some changes.
So plan it, don't wing it.
Yes, plan is always better.
What, in continuing my spirit of stupid questions, what makes a good Google ad?
A good Google ad. I spoke, well, I mean, a good, as a keyword, if we go for that, it would be a sort of a higher intent keyword. A good ad, in terms of writing ad copy, will be something that, I mean, you want to get that happy medium between capturing people's attention and then, but also not being too crazy and outrageous and saying, oh yeah, my service costs £1, when you're clearly not selling your services for £1. So it's kind of, you need to be wary of the people that you actually want to be clicking on your ads as well, not just trying to get as many clicks as possible, which I think is a mistake that people make when they're doing their first campaign. I think, I just want people to click to the ad, get on the website, but actually you're paying per click, so it's, you actually want the right people, or as many of the right people as possible, to click on your ad, not just everyone who's doing a search potentially. Yes,
this is a very good point. So you can also put little things in there to kind of deter people as well, can't you? So tell us about the secret tips to repel the inappropriate people from your ads.
So potentially things that you want to avoid maybe is kind of depending on your industry. I've seen if you use like free advice, you don't necessarily want to put free advice in your headline of your ad, because you're going to get a load of people who want free advice. They're not necessarily people who want to pay for anything at that moment in time. I mean, of course, free advice can lead to clients further down the line, but again, that depends on if you just want to speak to 100 people compared to those 10 people that you actually do want to speak to. So yeah, free is one of those things. It can get a lot of clicks, but again, you need to make a decision on if you want to, if it's the right clicks. Like something like free shipping, for example, or free postage. That's a good thing if you offer free postage. That's going to get more clicks, and generally, if you don't, your competitors are probably on there offering it. So including a price in your ad, so maybe a from price, if it's if you're a bit more, you're not the lowest priced in the market, and you don't want to speak to people who aren't who are looking for that lower end of the market, then put your price in ads, and you can naturally filter people out that way.
Tire kickers, that's got to be a good plan.
Tire kickers, exactly. You can get rid of the tire kickers, not all of them, but as many as you can try to do.
And can you learn from your competition around Google Ads? So should you go and have a nosy at what your competition are doing, and will that give you any useful information, or does that just take you into the obsessive space?
Yeah, I think you can learn. You can generally see like try to work out what's working for other people, and I try to look for gaps in what's kind of not there, what they're not doing. But I think that's because I've been doing this for so long, I can spot those gaps. I think from someone just starting out, it's quite hard to tell what's missing. But I think, yeah, there's definitely something. If you're just starting out, look at what your competitors are doing, and see, can you do it better, for example, or what are your USPs compared to them. If they're not showing them in their ads, you put them in yours. So it's kind of, yeah, it's good to do it, but I wouldn't go too obsessive. You have to copy it because this is the only thing that's going to work, which you see a lot in industries. You'll click on 3 or 4 ads and all the landing pages will look the same, all the ads are written the same. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe that works, but it's not the only thing that will work.
Yes. So for somebody who's thinking about having a dabble with Google Ads, what are the key things they should think about that's going to give them the best chance of success, do you think?
So I think getting the keywords right. That's probably where you want to put your time into, because that's at the end of the day where your ads are going to show. So you want to get those right. In terms of, I mean, it's a pretty complex system when you're trying to set it up. I mean, you can. It's if you just try to go on now, you kind of go down. You're kind of sent down this journey by the Google Ads system, which because it's to set up what's called a smart campaign, which is not necessarily the best thing to set up. And it's kind of a step-by-step system. It's like, what's your keywords, write your ads, and it's easy to do, but actually the results potentially aren't there because actually it's a limited version of Google Ads. So I generally say get someone who knows what they're doing to actually set it up for you at the beginning, unless you're going to try something very small like one keyword with one ad and just go for a very basic setup. But even that, things can go wrong, and settings, there are a few settings that you might need to tweak depending on what you're doing. So yeah, there's a lot of complexity in it, so I would say get someone who knows what they're doing to set it up.
That sounds like a plan to me. What are the key things you see in your time that people do wrong with Google Ads, or how can somebody end up wasting an awful lot of money?
Again, it's kind of it's usually extremes. It's usually you either do too much in terms of, oh my God, I've spent £3 and I've not had anything through. I need to make loads of changes. And you end up just continually changing things and never actually testing if anything's actually working properly. Yeah. Or they leave it too long and just think, oh yeah, I've read that, it can take 2 months for it to work. So they just leave it and they don't analyze what's actually going on. So you just leave it for 2 months and then, oh no, it doesn't work for me, switch it off. Whereas you need to be monitoring it on a regular basis. You need to kind of, there's some things that can go wrong with it. You need to be checking your the search terms, for example, is a big thing that you need to do. So this is where you need to distinguish between, there's a keyword. So say you can bid on business coaches, for example. Use an example there, Paula. And but actually your ad might show for business coach, but depending on how you've set it up, it could actually show on things that Google deems to be similar to that. So it might be, someone could be searching for what's the salary of a business coach or something like that. Your ads are showing there. You're never going to get business from that. And actually, you could find that a lot of your budget is going on that if you've not thought about that beforehand and removed that from the account. So you need to be checking the search terms on a daily basis, really, when you just set a campaign live, just to be making sure that the traffic, so the people coming through to your website are actually from the keywords that you want.
Fabulous. This makes a lot of sense. Do you have any brilliant stories of either wonderful ad successes and what made them success, or fantastic howlers? We often like a howler, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, the howlers are usually the best stories, I think. As I often mention one where they were about to put their campaign, this company was about to put their campaign live. They heard that I did Google Ads, and I knew them socially, so they were like, could you please check what I've done before I press the button? And I looked, and they were going to bid on just the word electricity, because it was business related to connecting houses to the grid. So they thought, yeah, we work with electricity.
Wow.
This is where, this is where the word keyword.
They were definitely going broad there, weren't they?
And lead people down, because people maybe they think, oh, it has to be one word, but that was their thinking. What's the word that can best sum up my business? No, it doesn't have to be one word. It can be a phrase. It can be up to 10 words making a phrase. So yeah, I said, no, let's not do this. Let's focus on what your actual service is, rather than just being electricity. And then that went on to be a very successful campaign at the end of the day, which it wouldn't have been if they'd have just gone with anything vaguely related to electricity. So yeah.
Can you remember what they did search on in the end?
It was a lot more specific to their actual. It was the need of their service, basically. It was okay. Why would someone need this, and also what would people be searching? Because it was kind of it's more of a B2B space. It was because it was like contracting from people who are building houses. So it was like, what would they be searching? It was kind of a technical industry term, actually, that was, which does work for B2B, but not actually B2C, if you're being too technical.
So there's a really good lesson in there, though, isn't there, about understanding your customer and trying to get inside their head in terms of what are they going to search for, rather than, as you say, going massive.
Yeah. Sometimes those more specific, what is the actual service or what is the need for my service as well, can actually get much better results than just being, I want eyeballs from something very vague.
Yes. Yeah, I totally get that. Now, you talked quite a lot about keywords and obviously getting those right and the importance of getting them right. Do you have any tips for people who, perhaps they're not SEO, they're not sure where to start? What are the first couple of things they can think about in terms of keywords and narrowing those down?
Yeah, it can be, as I said, I would start with your services with your products, and then you can put them into tools like Google Keyword Planner. For example, I've got a tutorial in my community about how to use that. Cheeky plug there, but you start broad, but you don't necessarily want to end broad, because you can often put what I call a seed keyword into a planner tool, and it's going to bring you back 3,000 results, and you can go through them, and you want to sort of base it on how many people are actually searching for it, because if it's 10, it might not be worth wasting your time doing that. I mean, 10, I've actually run successful campaigns on low volume keywords, but you don't necessarily want to focus on that initially. Is it relevant? Is it relevant to your business? And then again, what is the intent behind that? Are they just browsing, or are they actually looking specifically for your service or product?
Okay, love it. I think, actually, we had an interesting question as well. Dave left us some questions in advance, and we've talked about sectors, and we've talked about what else should you do first. Dave asked an interesting question about, does it tend to work best if you go with a bit of a general advert for your broad range of services, or would you tend to go much more specific and focus on a very specific service, and possibly would you have multiple campaigns running at the same time for each of your services or products?
Yeah, I think the specific service is generally the best way to go. I mean, there's sort of statistics on landing pages, for example, where people tend to think, oh, I offer all these services, let's put them all on this page. But actually, and that's not necessarily, someone's not necessarily searching for every single service, even if you offer it. So
yeah,
the conversion rate on those pages can drop off quite dramatically, even just including 2 services on there. So
yes,
if you want to focus on one service, you'd run multiple campaigns specifically for each service, and you would, you know, in the ideal world, you would have a landing page designed for each one.
Specifically. You have an advert for each one, a landing page for each one. There's a lot of evidence, isn't there, that basically shows if you give people too much choice, they just won't make a choice. They won't make a decision. Whereas if it's a straight, do you want this, yes or no, the choice is really easy, so you're much more likely to get a yes.
Yeah, and you can be a lot more focused in your messaging and, you know, getting across and it's generally what they've come for, one specific thing, you know.
Yeah.
Get them, you know, on that one, and then, you know, you can always upsell or cross sell or whatever you want to do later. You're just looking to get that lead.
I don't think I've actually asked you about budget. Is there a minimum budget at the point where you kind of say, well, in all honesty, if you haven't got this kind of figure, you're not going to generate a return? So is there an absolute minimum, and is there a sort of, this is what a decent budget looks like?
Yeah, it's very industry specific because it depends on what your kind of cost per click is going to look like for your keyword. So I would say kind of minimum would be £100. I've seen successful campaigns start with £100. I mean, the thing is, you can always increase or decrease as you move along, but
yeah,
I've seen that. I usually say, to give it a fair chance, you want to kind of go for 100 clicks a month. Otherwise, you know, you could, if you go too small, and it's going to take you, you know, 6 months before you get enough data to determine if it works or not. But actually, you know, you just really wasted your own time, you know, trying that. I think. Whereas you want to give it a decent shot of working straight away for you. So, as I say, usually, I've seen successful campaigns. I've ran them on a minimum of £100. I've not really done anything lower than that because generally cost per clicks are more than £1 now, and unless you're like e-commerce ads, for shopping ads, for example, can still be, you know, 40p, 30p, depending on per click, depending on what it is. But again, yeah, £100, but then, you know, there's no upper end limit. I mean, I've run campaigns.
I think the obvious question that I haven't asked you is, what would a Google Ads manager do for you? Why should somebody work with a manager?
Yeah, so if you get a good Google Ads manager, they're going to know where to look, basically, in terms of what can be improved, what can be optimized. So it could be things that you don't think of, like, for example, what time of day your ads are running. Like I noticed, I have a good example from last week, actually. I had a campaign that had been running fine during the week, and then it comes to the weekend, and it spent all its budget before 7 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, this is a bit strange. So I went in and, like, between midnight and 4 a.m., all the budget had gone, and it was, well, I mean, I don't necessarily know, but it was kind of a service that I think, like, kind of maybe people were getting in from the pub and thought maybe it's a good idea to search this when you've had a few pints, which isn't, they weren't getting any leads from it, so it was kind of like, cut that. So I think it's about, you know, if you've got an experienced ads manager, they know where to look, they know where to make efficiencies. It could be, you know, tweaking what devices you're, you know, is it more of a mobile market? Is it more of a, is it more desktop if it's B2B?
Yeah.
So it's knowing where to look, knowing what can go wrong, and then also knowing how to find new things that you can try and are going to work for you as well.
This makes a lot of sense. Is there such a thing as a typical price for a Google Ads business manager?
I don't think so. I mean, it depends. There's a few different sort of pricing structures that people use. I mean, a common one is it's based on budget. So if you're spending £500 on ads, then the management fee will be based on that, or some offer flat rates depending on, it doesn't matter what your budget is. So it can vary. And then there's some who would charge an hourly rate as well. So if you just wanted them to do a couple of hours worth of maintenance a month, some people do.
How would somebody know that an ads manager is good at what they do?
It's a tricky one because there's things like you can get accredited by Google. I mean, if you're a Google partner, that's usually a good way to tell. But also, there's certain tests that you can get certificates in. And when I've been using keyword research tools, a lot of those questions in those exams are the top searched keywords in these. So people are Googling to pass the Google certificate exam. So it's not necessarily the most watertight. It doesn't necessarily prove that you
would you generally, I'm conscious we've run slightly over time, but would you generally expect a decent ads manager to be able to give you some kind of demonstration of the successes that they've had or some of their client results?
Potentially. I mean, I'm always, I don't know. I mean, if you get permission to share your client's results, then that's fine. But I'm always one who doesn't really want to share client results because it's kind of confidential between with the client, and they don't necessarily want their competitors or whoever to potentially see them. So I would say definitely experience, see what they've, how long they've been doing it, if they've worked for companies in-house or if they've worked for agencies for a long time.
Grill them about their experience.
Yeah, go for experience rather than, because anyone can make a graph that looks like this. It's, you actually want to, do they actually know what they're talking about? Have they been doing this for a long time?
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So, Alistair, I think we've covered a lot of territory there, and I dare say there's quite a few bamboozling things in there, but you never know, we might have got a few people slightly more intrigued. So if people are kind of intrigued, if they're toying around the edges of Google Ads and not sure, and perhaps would like a bit more help and guidance, what more do you have to offer them?
So if you're looking for more information, visit my website, which is ppcsherpa.co.uk. I'm sure we put the link somewhere, and on there you'll find blogs which cover some of the topics we talked about as well, like cost per lead, how to come up with cost per lead, for example. And there's a newsletter to sign up to where there's weekly updates, because Google are always updating things, and just advice and tips. And then if people are a bit more interested, then there is the community that I run via that website as well, which is just a group of business owners who want to learn more. And I do live tutorials and live question and answers, and people can talk to me directly via that as well. So that's the best place to start.
And there's lots of juicy stuff in that community. How much is that community membership at the moment?
At the moment, it's £5 per month. It's initial introductory offer. Should be 10. Amazing.
People need to jump on that for sure. That's fantastic, Alistair. Hopefully we've given people lots of really interesting information and sent them away with some ideas on either how to get started or what to do to refine their Google Ads, or perhaps just prove to them that they really need an ads manager. So thank you very much for coming along this afternoon. Thank you to everybody who's been watching us. Not sure what's been going on LinkedIn. I think we might have just been a black screen for half an hour. But yes, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll see you all very soon.